by a veteran who was there who saw his plane get hit, as well as 3 eyewitnesses.
Why do I want this kid to talk to his old vet buddy? Like, get them
Yeah.
together, see what happens.
Well, so his dad found him later, which is in my notes, but I don't know if
Ugh,
they actually talked to James. I would imagine he did. I mean, now he's like, what, 18 or something? Or no.
yeah. What year was he born?
No, he's
99?
24, yeah.
Yeah.
So he might have been talking now to people, or I don't think he remembers as much anymore, though.
Right. It goes away.
Yeah. But he claimed he died in the Battle of Iwo Jima, which was verified to be Huston, as he was the only pilot from the USS Natoma Bay killed during the Iwo Jima operation.
That's crazy. I feel
Right.
like I keep saying that, but like,
It is crazy. How is it just one person died there and he says it's him? And like that's all
right.
confirmed before they can find out this name of this guy.
Right.
Yeah. Um and yeah, James was having nightmares of the plane crashing on fire and sinking and being unable to get out, which was verified by an aircraft action report that stated no wreckage of the plane was left afloat. So he did sink and couldn't get out.
Wow.
And the Corsair plane, he said he flew that, but which there are photos of Huston with Corsairs, and he had flown Corsairs during test flights, but he wasn't flying a Corsair when he crashed. But he was very familiar with Corsair planes. And then obviously he said his plane flew off a boat and his plane was shot down by the Japanese, which was confirmed by military records and the aircraft action report. And I guess he also in the interview said Corsairs get flat tires when they land, which later an Air Force historian verified that Corsairs bounce like more when they land, which can often lead to flat tires.
What the
So it's like he's
fuck?
very familiar with this
Yeah,
plane.
it's not just like he's heard the word one time and
Yeah, pretty
this is also
crazy.
like pre, not that a 2 or 3 or 4 year old could like get on the internet, but like he could
Yeah.
not have looked this up even if he wanted to.
Right. Like his parents were searching as he said more stuff, and it took like 2 years to find this stuff
Right.
of them looking and going to meetings and stuff.
Like
But
talking to people.
right, based on what he's telling them already. So it's like, yeah, where did he get this from? Um, Following that interview, James' dad attended a Natoma Bay reunion where he learned Jack Larson actually survived the war and was still alive, and he did meet with him and talked about his friend that died, who was James M. Huston Jr., who was a 21-year-old from Pennsylvania, and the only one that died during the Battle of Iwo Jima, who was on Natoma Bay, so has to be him.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Um, and he did learn, like he posted it on a website after he got this name from Jack Larson. He was looking for more information on James Huston, and he learned that he like didn't die like on Iwo Jima, but he was one of 8 pilots who took part in a strike against transport vessels in a harbor on Chichijima, and his plane appeared to have crashed like exactly where James had pointed in the photo.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, so that's like all the stuff really that I have. Like, obviously, there's always a possibility of fraud, but like with all of this, like, yeah, how does a 2-year-old come up with Natoma or Jack Larson or Corsair planes?
Or look at a picture and know what that
Yeah,
picture is, where that picture is.
right. Like, it's kind of crazy to say that it's just a made up story that he made up. So then what is it? I mean, it's definitely one of the more compelling things.
Right.
But there is a theory um that some people say like when people die, they may leave like a thought bundle. Like I'd never heard of this before, but like that thought bundle's not necessarily like a ghost. Like it's not like someone's consciousness still, but it's like a
Their
residue.
memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that could maybe be picked up by someone. So maybe James had some psychic ability or got like attached that way somehow, like through the museum.
I was thinking like kind of like being possessed, but not possessed
Yeah.
by like something evil, but just like you're intertwined.
Right. So that's kind
What
of the
is
idea of the
quantum entanglement? Like you're entangled.
right. Yeah, it doesn't really explain like why like he would have picked up on this guy as opposed to like all of the thousands of people who like also died and could be attached
Or
to any of
like
those planes.
nearby too. Like that happened not
Right.
near him.
Right, it didn't happen near him. But he started like the museum triggered it, so maybe but they didn't have like the wreckage of the plane. So it's like why would
Right.
the other James thoughts or whatever energy be there
Unless he
unless
just liked it. But he was
yeah,
from Pennsylvania too, not even like
right.
Texas or something.
Right. So it's kind of doesn't really make sense. Although they have the same name. Maybe that called to each other.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This I mean that is one explanation still not like scientific really or it's still like out there that people would maybe not believe, but there's really
Right.
not like a normal explanation for like he's two. He's not talking to a bunch of people or like going to school.
Right. Accidentally overhearing.
Yeah. So like where else would he have gotten this information? Pretty crazy.
It is. I believe it. I don't know. I don't know what I believe, but I
Yeah,
can't think of anything that would explain this.
right. Yeah, so it definitely remains as a strong evidence for reincarnation, like one of the strongest cases out there that reincarnation could be possible.
Yeah. And there are other stories. Like, this isn't the only one,
Right,
right? I don't know that any of the other ones have as much evidence, but, like, this is definitely, like, well researched.
yeah,
I guess my only explanation could be that the parents had been feeding him this information somehow, but, like, to me, that doesn't make sense. It's not like he was a famous person or something.
right,
Like, well documented case. It's a very, like, niche, not easy to find information about.
right. Especially then. That was kind of mentioned in because the thing that I read that outlined everything, like it's a scientist writing like a scientific article
Oh,
and explaining and like trying to debunk it kind of too. So he said that like if his parents were trying to feed it to him and stuff, like there's like they do write a book like 3 or 4 years later. Actually, when he's 11, they write a book. So it's like, well, I don't think they planned on writing a book from the get-go because that's
right.
like
Or they would
nine
have done it
years.
right away. Yeah.
Right. And like they didn't really want fame. The interview that was recorded was never actually aired like on the
Oh, on
air.
that show?
Right. Like it never got recorded, but it was still filmed so they could still see what their answers were. But like they didn't get fame that way. Like if they wanted
Interesting.
fame, like and
Right.
um he said something I didn't write it down, but it's in the sources. But he said that like Natoma Bay, the ship, like there's not a lot published on that. And there's not like you can't find James Huston like listed almost anywhere at this point
Right.
online.
Like it's not like a famous ship. It's not a
Right.
famous battle that he died in. It's
Right.
not like
Or
a
like Jack Larson too. You can't really find
right.
yeah. Like now you could, but in
Crazy.
2000 like
I think even now that information could be hard to track down. or like
I
come
think only
across.
because of this case.
Right. Like you would have to have talked to someone who knew them. Like, it would have to
Right,
be someone feeding war stories, and they could easily find out if these people knew someone that
right.
would be telling them that.
Yeah, and they didn't know anyone. Like, I guess James, the World War II vet, um, the pilot guy, he had a sister, or has a, well, she was 91 at this point in time. And the kid was born in California, and she lived pretty close to where he was born, but they moved to Texas when he was like 2 months old. So it's like
Oh.
not even possible that they could have run into her, and I don't know why they would even talk to her or anything,
Right.
but like one of his living relatives was living close by to where James was born. But still, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna talk to her and hear about her brother from.
Well, and like she might not even know these details. Like these
Right,
aren't details that like a normal person would know. It literally would have to be someone who was like in his squad. You know what I mean? I
right,
don't know if they
yeah.
call it a squad, but it would have to be
Yeah, his team
someone
or
close to him that served with him.
right. Yeah, because they're not gonna tell relatives like what happened. Like,
Right. Like literally the only thing I could think of is if there was a vet at the museum the same day they were there who was telling someone something and somehow he overheard it and like completely took it on in his brain. But like again, that would
right.
the odds of that would be so low.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't really make sense to explain it that way, but
No.
well, that's it for this episode. I do want to make one correction. I said James Leininger, but his last name's actually Leininger, so I did mispronounce it, so I wanted to correct that. Our sources for the episode will be in the description, as well as our social media links. We're on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, all under Let's Be Briefed, so check us out there for any updates. We also have a Patreon, so you can support us there if you like our content and want more of it. You can also email us at letsbebriefed@gmail.com if you have ideas on future topics you'd like us to cover. We always have a list we're updating with topic options, so if we know you're interested, we can bump a topic up the list. Until next time, stay briefed.